Meeting to order of the Jenks City Council. It's Tuesday, September 1st, 2020, 6 o'clock p.m. Let's call roll, please.
Murray.
Here.
Isbell.
Here.
Box. Counselor Box.
Good evening. My apologies for being on time.
Dyke.
Here.
Auger.
Here.
Lynn.
Here.
Mary Lee.
Here. Do we have any citizens' comments tonight on any item that's not on the agenda?
We do not.
Okay. All right. Well, first tonight, we'd like to recognize the service of Mr. Larry Hinks, who's with us in chambers tonight. The City of Jenks would like to thank Mr. Larry Hinks for his extensive and selfless service to the citizens of Jenks. For over 30 years, he has been a mainstay on various councils and boards. His service has helped to steadily guide Jenks toward a path for a vibrant future. The city has changed a great deal since Mr. Hinks first served. When he was first elected to the city council, Jenks was a small town of about 4,000 people. Now Jenks is a thriving community of nearly 250,000 people. Families and businesses alike find Jenks to be a great place to establish roots. This is a testament to dedicated civil servants like Mr. Hinks. His leadership helped to establish the city of Jenks on a sound foundation for future civil servants. And I have a proclamation I'd like to read recognizing Mr. Hinks. Thank you for being here, Larry. Whereas local governments rely on outstanding civil servants to grow and prosper, and whereas Larry Hinks has played an active role in shaping the city of Jenks, serving on both the City Council and Board of Adjustment, whereas he spent over 30 years as an elected or appointed civil servant for Jenks, and whereas with the help of Mr. Hinks, the city has seen tremendous growth in both size and prosperity, and whereas the City of Jenks is honored to have citizens like Larry Hinks willing to spend their time making the city a better place for everyone. Now, therefore, I, Robert Lee, Mayor of the City of Jenks and the Jenks City Council, do hereby honor Larry Hinks for his outstanding service to the City of Jenks. We are proud to have him as a member of our community. Thank you, Mr. Hinks.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much.
Mary, do you want to tell us a little bit about what Jenks was like when you first began serving the city?
Bear.
What's the city like when you first started?
There was just the old Jenks downtown. That was it. We had a drive-in out at the curb going out toward the bridge called the Teepee, and that was kind of the end going east. And when you crossed over the railroad track, that's where we always shot our U-turn and come back. Once in a while, we'd go all the way out to Elm. There was one service station out there. And for summertime, we had Skyline Park, and that was about it.
Well, thank you for helping grow it into what it is today.
Yeah. Everything, the football field, the school. I was in the last class to graduate on Main Street there at Parker Square. The day after we graduated, they started tearing that down. So all the main streets changed.
Yeah, absolutely.
Looking good, though. You guys keep up the good work.
Thank you, Mr. Hinks, and thanks for everything you've done.
All right.
Thank you.
That's Larry.
And you're welcome to stay for the whole meeting.
I bet.
I'd like to recognize some new Eagle Scouts here in Jenks who recently earned the rank. Perhaps the single greatest accomplishment that any scout can achieve is reaching the rank of Eagle. The City of Jenks is honored to recognize several members of our community that were awarded the rank of Eagle Scout this year. The following individuals and their Eagle Scout projects are as follows. Ethan Phelps. Ethan held a duffel bag drive for children in foster care with a goal of 100 bags filled with various items. He created an Amazon wish list with the items to be donated, which included items such as blankets, stuffed animals, and hygiene products. The full duffel bags were donated to TFI Family Connections in Tulsa. Noah Guyman revitalized a section of the camp acquired by his church near Fort Gibson Lake. This included improving buildings, clearing trails, and making the fire pit an enjoyable place to spend an evening. Zihao Zhang worked with the Little Lighthouse, a school that serves children with special needs in Tulsa. He supervised the design and building of 2 6-foot by 5-foot sensory rooms for children with sensory sensitivity. The rooms can also be disassembled for easy storage. And Kyle McKinney redesigned and updated landscaping of an overgrown memorial garden at Faith United Methodist Church in Tulsa. Kyle fundraised, researched, and worked this project while also supervising around 20 scouts during the work days. The updated landscaping is now aesthetically pleasing and functional for the church. Each one of these individuals showed true commitment to their community by putting forth the effort to improve it. For these reasons, we would like to recognize and congratulate them on becoming Eagle Scouts. Congratulations to these young men. I know I'm an Eagle Scout. I think Councilor Murray is as well. Yes. You know what?
And Counselor Dyke's son is. I get some credit for that, right?
Absolutely, he's right.
An Eagle mom.
That's right. Congratulations to these young men. We will move on to the city manager report. Mr. Shroud.
Mayor and all members of council, as you all know, we had a big vote last Tuesday, and the citizens overwhelmingly voted to approve the bond issue put before them. Probably the first thing that I was receiving questions on Wednesday morning is, when is Elm Street going to be built? And so we have Chris Robinson here with us tonight to give us an update on the progress on the engineering design of Elm Street, and a timeline on what we should expect in the next year or two moving forward towards construction.
Mr. Robinson.
Mayor, members of council, I sent out a project update earlier today, but I'll go over it in more detail. So currently the draft final plans were submitted about 2-3 weeks ago, and I've been slowly going through all 250 pages of the plan sheets. It is very tedious, but it's need to make sure that our design engineer did his job correctly. And currently, utility relocations are almost entirely designed right now. They're just updating their designs to handle the increased improvement we're doing over by 131st Street and Elm. Since we're widening it all of 5 lanes the entire way, they are just adjusting the right-of-way or utility relocation plans they already have done for us. And those are PSO, East Central Electric, AT&T, Cox, O&G, and then the pipeline companies. Both Magellan and Explorer, which we signed agreements with to relocate, in reality just extend their casings that are under Elm. They plan to start that in October, possibly November, depending on how weather holds. And they expect to be done before the end of the year on both of those. On timing, for the relocation of the utilities, our design engineer thinks they can get them all moved by the first part of the next year, like March 21. And I'm being a little cautious because PSO needs to move 2 miles worth of electrical lines, and they have a lot of underground lines to also relocate. I'm thinking they'll take almost the entire 12 months from now to get it all done. If we can push them hard enough, maybe they can get it done quicker. We are currently going through right-of-way acquisition right now, and we have about over half the right-of-way packets ready to send out for offers. We're just going through them, making sure that we're offering adequate prices for the square footage we're asking for the right-of-way. And then the 2 largest parcels, we're still working on those offers. They're for the section south of 131st on the west side of Elm. There's just the 2 owners there, but that one will just be tedious to make sure we ask for the correct value and negotiate with them. And then as far as other updates, On the right-of-way acquisition, I am hoping to get those done by either the end of the year or by March. My goal is by March. And then as far as construction, I'm anticipating construction can start a year from this coming January. Our design engineer thinks he can get everything in place and ready to go by March to June of this coming year. So I'm being a little more cautious on it. He's being more aggressive with his timetable. Either way, we will push to get it done as soon as possible. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
All right, thanks for looking into that. Excited to have these projects in the works. Thanks again to everyone who worked on this campaign and all the people of Jenks who voted to get this going. Any questions from council on this project?
I'm sorry, Robert, I know you said this, and I apologize profusely, but did you say how long the project would be to do the 2 miles? I know you did, I just missed it.
Are you referring to the construction or the utility relocation?
No, actually, it's just all one thing. So from start to finish, if we start a year from January, what are we potentially looking at?
I have estimated 20 months on the time frame for construction, and that's anticipating a wet winter or wet spring. I'm sure construction documents will show our shorter construction days, but I'm just adding in there all the rain delays we typically get in a year.
Okay, that's good. That's
And-
just kind of, because I had questions on that, and I wasn't really sure how to answer it, so that's a good number.
We also designing in it a phased approach to the construction, so that way two-way traffic's always open.
Okay.
To be clear, Mayor, Chris, you said January of 2022 is the estimated completion.
That would be the estimated start of construction.
The start of construction is January 2022, not the completion.
Correct. Now, the design engineer thinks we can start by June of 2021, but this project really can't start until 111th and Elwood is completely finished and open.
Okay, understood. Thank you, sir.
Yep. We can't have the whole city blocked.
Right-of-way acquisition and utility movement is always kind of a wild card in there too.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
any other questions on the Elm Street widening project?
No,
What can you tell us about the other projects that were on the bond package? You're ready to do that?
Yeah. So the Main Street project from the railroad to date, I am anticipating 90% plans on that one to be submitted in September. We are just getting the engineering right-of-way and utility relocation contract with ODOT sent over. We're just going through it, making sure that we agree with how the agreement's set up and our share of costs. On that one, right-of-way will start once that agreement is signed, and then we only have 23 tiny parcels, and most of them are actually temporary construction easements, so that should go fairly quick. And then utility relocations, we don't have that many, so I am anticipating that project should start construction in, let's see, what did I have? Basically, the end of 2021. It might start sooner. It really depends on how fast we can get utilities relocated.
Okay, any questions on that one? Right. What about the engineering project?
The engineering projects, we are working on going through some engineering submittals we got for the 106 project. It's a big project and the submittals are quite vast. We have 2 firms we've narrowed it down to, and we just need to eliminate the other one and go with a recommendation, and we'll bring it before you. And then design on that project can start. On the Elwood Avenues, we have to solicit for engineers. I'm working on a list of engineering firms to solicit, interview, and then we will have to go with one we feel competent on that, both projects. I would prefer not to do the same engineer in both, just so we get full attention on our project and not kind of divide it between 2. So as soon as we get that, we'll bring it to you and design can start. So I'm anticipating by the first of the year.
Looking forward to seeing those. Any questions on those projects?
I have one question.
Sure.
With regard to the engineering for the 106th Street project, does that include a bridge over Polecat Creek?
It includes a bridge over Polecat Creek, a railroad crossing, and then the bridge over Wilmot Creek.
Okay. Which would make it a very lucrative project, or perhaps expensive project.
We are making sure that enough funds and wording is in the contract to handle the Corps of Engineers permits we'll need.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Thank you for that, and thanks for all your work. I know you've been working on these things for many years, so much appreciation.
Thank you.
Thanks. You can go on. Mr. Stroud, do you have anything else for us right now?
Oh, I might just touch on a couple of projects that were completed or near completion. We refurbished the lighthouse last week. There was some wood rot that was replaced, and I think it looks really nice. Katie posted about that, and we sent out emails with some pictures of it. The South Harbor project, the mill and overlay from Providence Hills to the south all the way to 141st, that was completed last week. We think the contractor did a very good job and was pretty quick on that. A pretty nice road if anybody ever gets down there. The B Street sidewalk project is coming along. I think that they're down to pretty much, they're still working west of Cedar on the north side of B Street, but that's coming along nicely. And then something that Councilor Lynn had touched on 2 weeks ago was we had residents talking about North 2nd Street and hoping that that would be approved. With a pavement improvement program, that was on the list and money was budgeted for a mill and overlay, and that is out to bid right now. So I would anticipate either at the, potentially even the next council meeting or the first council meeting in October, seeking to award the bid on that project. And one of the things we heard when meeting with the residents on North 2nd and that we've heard from people that live off of North 1st is just filling potholes in the interim, and Public Works got out last week and filled potholes up there. So, I mean, that mill and overlay at North 2nd Street should be hopefully awarded and even complete by the end of this calendar year. There's some other stuff that's probably more pertinent to the Public Works agenda, so I will touch on those at that general manager's report.
Okay. Any questions on any of that?
No, I'm just sure First Street is working its way up the list.
It absolutely needs to be working its way up the list. I'm with you, Kaylin, on that one.
All right, so let's move on to business. First order of old business discussion on possible adoption of the new Jenks comprehensive plan. Horizon Jenks will be the city's comprehensive plan from 2020 to 2023. Both is here to lead us off, and I think our friends at House Steel and Levine are here as well. Welcome, everybody.
Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you all. Thank you, Mayor, Council, and staff. This has been an exciting project. We brought it to you on the 18th for approval, or I should say adoption of the resolution. And we talked about an amendment to the industrial area and gave it some thought. The city attorney gave her opinion, and staff recommended and sent out to everyone on 8/24 that the language, and let me tell you what page it's found on. And the actual comprehensive plan, it's page 29, and it's talking about heavy industrial. The planning commission recommended adding the sentence or part of a sentence, or new uses in existing areas that pose a risk to public safety. And after talking internally and with the city attorney, we also added the word any or new uses in existing areas that pose an undue risk to public safety. So the two words that were added after Mr. Randolph, our planning commissioner, made the recommendation for adoption, and with that condition, and that is the two words that were added. I think this is an outstanding product, looking very exciting, I'm really looking forward to working with the consultant on getting the Unified Development Ordinance done and just really being a part of seeing Jenks grow. This is, what you're adopting tonight is a guide for the city, and I've been very privileged to work with House Hill Levine. We have the two people from there, and I will let them take it from here.
Mayor. Yeah, I guess before I turn over to Josh, I'll just say it's been great working with the community. This process kicked off way back in 2018 is when the city issued the request for proposal to get us on board, and it wasn't until the spring of 2019 when we started the study. And so it took us a little over 12 months to get to this point, which is very typical for a comprehensive plan process. And this really represents the first leg of our contract with you. The planning has to come first. We have to articulate a vision for the community and what it wants to achieve. And the next piece of the project that we're kicking off following the adoption of the plan is updating the UDO and all of the development regulations that dictate and guide new development. And so having the plan in place, we write zoning ordinances and UDOs all over the country, and the easiest ones to write are one when a community's articulated its vision and has identified where it wants to be and what it wants to achieve. And so for us to roll into that process on the heels of this comprehensive plan will make that process much easier. There'll be, even with that process, opportunities for public involvement and additional opportunities to engage the community as we continue to shape the future of the community. So I'll turn it over to Josh. He has, you can take it from here. Josh?
Good evening, Mayor and members of council. Thanks for having us tonight. I'm just going to go ahead and start sharing my screen here. I have a brief presentation. Can everybody see it okay?
Yes, thank you.
A brief presentation to just walk through some of the kind of key points of the plan. I know you've all had some time to review it. And then following that, we can take questions or have any sort of discussion that's needed. The comprehensive plan is, as it was mentioned, is a policy document to be used by you and other city officials, developers, business owners, citizens, all to provide fair certainty as you make decisions about future growth and development in Jenks. It's not a silver bullet for every issue facing Jenks, but it focuses on the key areas of land use, transportation, location, community character and urban design, parks, open space, and environmental features. It helps to inform future decision making and anticipates issues, emerging trends, conditions that could affect the city moving forward. It also provides a vision for the future of Jenks, and it identifies the critical steps in making that vision a reality. And as Devin mentioned already, it's not regulatory. This isn't your zoning code. Zoning regulates your specific uses, such as scale and intensity of a development. And like Devin mentioned, for a zoning ordinance to be based on the plan should be written first. And that's exactly how this project is organized for Jenks. So zoning should really fit with the plan and should be used to implement the plan. The plan was really built on community outreach, and there were sort of three important facets of that community outreach. The first really key to the process was the guidance by the Comprehensive Plan Advisory Council. The CAC was formed to shepherd the plan through the process. We met with this group of, I think it was about 15 to 20 individuals right at the outset of the process, and then in person at Spain Ranch during the visioning phase of the project, which is pictured here, and also twice virtually as we headed into the draft plan review part of the process. We did some public outreach meetings. We held a business workshop right at the beginning. We heard from staff how important the business community is to Jenks, and we used the Chamber of Commerce's regularly scheduled meeting to kick off the planning process. So engage with the business community right up front. We held a issues and opportunities workshop, and we had a really good turnout at the aquarium. I said this last time to the Planning Commission, and it's still true, that the only time we've ever gotten to, this was really the only time we've ever gotten to visit sharks at a public meeting, so it's a pretty unique experience. We did our sub-area visioning workshops. We held these with this group at Spain Ranch, and then with another group of students at the high school. This is an opportunity to kind of gather around maps and then actually draw the community's vision for both the downtown and the riverfront areas on paper, put pen to paper and do that. We also had a website, horizonjinx.com, with opportunities to take the community questionnaire and map.social, which is use a map.social community mapping tool to provide your input to the planning process. So overall, more than 750 different times individuals were engaged with the planning process throughout this project. Then just a little more of this really good outreach process that we had. We heard we heard some things that sort of started to sort into key themes. We heard a need for trail improvements and expansion of the existing trails network, as well as sidewalks and bike lanes. We heard that a variety of housing options were important, and a lot of people appreciated the quality of the existing housing in the city, and while some indicated a need for a wider range of price points, including more options for seniors. Across all forms of outreach, participants identified the importance of really diversifying businesses and attracting new businesses to the city, and generally to encourage locally owned businesses to continue to make Jenks a unique place to shop and do business. We heard a lot about recreation. Participants at the community workshop identified a lack of gathering places and used hangout options as some of the issues that are facing Jenks. And similarly, the senior focus group that we conducted indicated a need for an accessible adult activity center. When people talked about the strengths and assets of the community, they most often mentioned the school district, the small town feel of the community, the aquarium, the safe environment, the river walk, and just great regional access via the highway and the Creek Turnpike. So as we conducted these outreach events, we posted outreach summaries to horizonjinx.com for the public to review what they'd said, how they participated. So if outreach and public engagement and the existing conditions analysis are all sort of part of the plan that establishes where Jenks is today in 2019, 2020, the vision, goals, objectives section of the plan really articulate where the community wants to go over the next 20 years. These were developed out of all the input that came out of community outreach, and they provide a framework for policies and recommendations found throughout the plan. And this is just a section of the vision statement that's in the plan. So I'm going to briefly touch on a few of the maps that are in the document. First and foremost, the future land use, the land use plan. This is, you could say, sort of a representation of the direction that comes out of the vision, goals, and objectives. It's a critical part of the plan. It's really the primary tool for helping the community achieve its vision, and it's an advisory part of the document. It lays the foundation for those future zoning changes that we talked about in the UDO, but this is not your zoning or your zoning map. The plan is really designed to encourage responsible and planned development for the undeveloped areas of the community and has a focus on infill and redevelopment opportunities. The next two maps that we're going to look at, the housing neighborhoods and commercial areas, these both add additional specificity and recommendations to the land use plan. So they sort of build on the future land use plan. The housing neighborhoods plan is about ensuring quality housing remains a staple of the community. It's designed to establish a balance of housing types and ensure compatibility between the city's commercial areas and its residential neighborhoods, and promote the development of the diversity of housing types, sizes, and price points. Kind of some of the big ideas here were to increase connections between residential subdivisions, whether it's with roads, trails, or connected open spaces, and to promote conservation development, especially in those areas around sensitive natural areas. Commercial industrial areas plan is intended to leverage the riverfront as an attractive regional amenity and provide residents with convenient access to those necessary goods and services within the community. Continue to provide increased opportunities for employment, strengthen the tax base, and again, build on that compatibility with the residential areas. Overall, the big ideas were to continue to promote the small town character for the city and the Tulsa region. You can see that downtown is a key part of this plan, the downtown commercial core, and to improve the appearance of the city's commercial areas by promoting high quality development and rejecting national templates. So for an example of this might be getting a Walgreens that looks and feels like Jenks rather than sort of anywhere USA. Just an example. The sub-areas for the plan were identified right at the beginning in the RFP process. These two key areas really form kind of a larger core, the original part of Jenks. They provide in-depth, detailed recommendations for these two areas, the riverfront and downtown. They each begin with sort of a summarized version of the vision statement that connects back to the larger vision statement. And the riverfront district really is designed to continue to develop as a unique area, kind of continue along with that distinctive mix of uses and activities to make it an enjoyable waterfront for the city. And The functional improvements include things like new bike and pedestrian connections and key opportunity sites, just to see how that could develop long term. The downtown sub-area is presented in terms of its form, uses, conditions, characteristics, and potentials. It addresses the specific needs of each of the sort of opportunity areas of downtown, and then also offers recommendations for improvement and enhancement of key opportunity sites and redevelopment blocks. When you're looking through the plan document, there's some models in these in the sub areas, and really these are sort of models that are guides for what the areas could look like. They're not necessarily prescriptive or architectural renderings or anything like that. So a little more specificity and depth than the rest of the comprehensive plan for these two key areas. The transportation and mobility plan, this builds again on the recommendations from your previous comprehensive plan, and then also an existing conditions assessment that we did driving up and down every street in the city. It covers some general policy recommendations around functional classification, coordination with other agencies, traffic circulation, parking recommendations, and identification of the South Tulsa Bridge as a potential key connection with sort of an approximate location indicated on the map. The bike and pedestrian mobility plan builds on INCOG's GO plan and provides more specificity around complete streets, bicycle mobility for both transportation and recreation, identifies some new sidewalk and pedestrian access policies and recommendations, and centers around the big ideas of passing a complete streets ordinance, which would ensure that all modes of travel are considered as new transportation projects are undertaken, improving the pedestrian environment by building on some of the local best practices, such as the pedestrian bridge, and continuing to work with INCOG on the bike network while thinking outside the box for things like utility trails or rail with trail, which could be some cool new trail opportunities. The community character and urban design plan includes public and private realm improvements like streetscape enhancements, design guideline recommendations, gateways and signage recommendations. We heard from the Jenks Public School students how important public art is, and there's some recommendations about public art downtown. They said that they wanted a place to take photos downtown, and one of the recommendations in the plan is to work with students on public art programs. We had talked about gateways. The city, as the manager mentioned, has the landmark Lighthouse Gateway, and some additional gateways could be considered for key entry points. The park's open space and environmental features plan is about those key components that contribute to the quality of life within the city. These are your spaces where residents and visitors get to spend leisure time together, gather, enjoy the outdoors. Seems like it's more important than ever these days to have those good outdoor spaces. It includes environmental features, those kind of open natural areas like along Polecat Creek, which also contribute to the city's natural beauty and sense of place. Big ideas for this chapter are to establish the Jenks Adult Activity Center, and then really to continue to maintain the city's innovative and thoughtful approach to its public parks. You have a recent history of some really forward-thinking parks like Veterans Park, which has really a wide range of recreational opportunities, from the ranging from the skate park to those casting ponds. Park West at Park West did a nice job maintaining the mature trees along Polecat Creek, and Downtown Commons with the food truck hookups. So we really thought that these features and amenities indicated that the parks are ready, well equipped to serve a wide swath of the community, and recommendations in this section are about continuing to think outside the box and ensure that your new parks meet the needs of all residents. The community facilities section, provides recommendations about supporting your existing community facilities and services, and really to ensure that the city continues to be well served as it grows. Whether that's with prioritizing key infrastructure projects around the public schools central campus, or as growth occurs, assessing the staffing and facility needs of each city department to make sure that you're balancing high quality services against your population growth. The final section of the plan, the implementation section, reflects the idea that implementing the plan is really just as important as creating it. You need to maintain good relationships and communication with citizens, business owners, partner agencies. These are all going to be critical as you move forward. The implementation matrix is really your quick hit index or checklist so that you can go through and measure your progress under the plan. And it identifies partnerships and a sort of a short, medium, long, and ongoing timeline for each of the actions in the plan. That sums up the presentation that I have, and we're open to take questions or any comments that you may have.
Thank you very much for that. Any questions from council? Well, I think it looks good. I'm happy to see us to this point. I know you guys have been working on it for a long time. If there's no questions or discussions, we can move on to the next item. All right. The next item is request to approve resolution number 712 for adoption of the new Jenks comprehensive plan, Horizon Jenks.
So moved.
Second.
All right. Thank you. Let's vote.
Murray,
Yes.
Isbell,
Yes.
Box,
Yes.
Dyke,
Yes.
Ogier,
Yes.
Lynn,
Yes.
Mayor Lee.
Yes. Thank you guys, and looking forward to seeing the next leg of the project, zoning codes.
Great, thanks everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, so we will move on to our first order of new business, consideration and appropriate action relating to requests for approval of the consent agenda. The questions or motions on the consent agenda.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Thank you. Let's vote.
Murray,
Yes.
Isbell,
Yes.
Box,
Yes.
Dyke,
Yes.
Ogier,
Yes.
Lynn,
Yes.
Mayor Lee.
Yes. We will pull item number 2. Move on to 3. Request to approve resolution 713, a resolution concerning funding pursuant to the CARES Act and the Coronavirus Relief Fund, confirming that it is the policy of the city that all public safety personnel costs are substantially dedicated to the COVID-19 response efforts of the city throughout the ongoing state of emergency. Mr. Sanceda, welcome.
Thank you. Mayor, members of council, the resolution before you kind of is on the recommendation from OMMS, which is the Oklahoma Municipal Management Services. And they're working with OML and the state on helping municipalities approach the reimbursement process with the state and the funds that the state received under the CARES Act. So last month, the state changed its approach in allocating some of the CARES Act funds. to a per capita, so $77 per resident, and that amounts to 1.8 million for our city. So one of the an approach to receive that amount would be by submitting the payroll expense for your public safety personnel. So in this instance, we would submit payroll expenses for the fire department, police department, including the police reserves, and dispatch, as well as some of the time spent by our communications director in the COVID-19 information press releases that she worked on. So this resolution will help kind of strengthen that support and help us be in compliance with the Treasury guidance in receiving our allotment.
All right, any questions on that? Any motions?
I move to approve. Second.
All right, thank you. Let's vote.
Murray,
Yes.
Isbell,
Yes.
Box,
Yes.
Dyke,
Yes.
Bojang,
Yes.
Lynn,
Yes.
Mayor Lee.
Yes. Thanks for your work on that, Robert. Item 4, request to approve ordinance number 1533, an ordinance adopting employee retirement system, a defined contribution plan for the city of Jenks, Oklahoma. So I'll say that to you again.
Mayor, members of council, this item in conjunction with item number 5, 6, and 7 of the agenda all kind of relate to our change in our retirement plan. So originally, we are currently with ICMA, and city leadership felt that among many other faults, their customer service wasn't really up to par, and we felt that our employees needed something better. So after a search process, we brought before council the recommendation to move to OKMRF. So other municipalities around, well, this is all Oklahoma-based, the city of Broken Arrow, Coweta are some of the current participants, and we felt that that would be a good change. So council approved moving forward with this change last fall. So the first ordinance is to actually kind of amend or adopt our retirement plan for the employees. None of these specifics change. It's still a 6.8% match or contribution that the city gives for all full-time employees. And then the following resolution is to actually join the trust, because OKMRF was founded by a joint trust between the city of Ada and Shawnee, and over time more municipalities have joined. And that's that resolution would allow us to pull our funds together in that trust, and also authorize the HR director to kind of implement this retirement plan and to direct the contributions into the retirement fund. And then the resolution 715 is to amend our 457B plan. So this is where employees can opt to contribute more into the retirement fund. And this is into a 457B. And currently this is with ICMA as well. However, OKMRF is partnered with Voya Financial, and Voya would be the plan administrator for our 457B.
So the 457B is not a match contribution, it's just an additional contribution by the employee, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, the 6.8 that we're matching on their retirement plan, is that in alignment with municipalities surrounding us, or where are we as far as the range?
So some municipalities do something different. So pretty much you have two choices in how you provide a retirement plan to employees. You could have a defined contribution, which is what we currently do. We do not request or require a match for the employees. We just give 6.8%.
6.8%, like over how many years? Is it like you automatically get 6.8% when you join the city of Jenks, or is it after a certain period of time? Or what is the differentiation there? Because, I mean, most companies, it's a match of 6%, so.
Right, so the specifics are, you have to be a full-time employee and you are benefit eligible 30 days after your first month of employment is whenever the benefits kick in. So you would be eligible for our medical plan and a retirement contribution. And this amount vests after your first year of employment with the city. So if you leave before your first year, you forfeit that contribution. Yes.
Okay. And how much is it that they can contribute before they get the 6.8%? So say if I'm gonna deposit 20% of my check, am I invested 6.8% on the 20%, or is it just a certain amount that we're talking about?
So an employee doesn't have to contribute anything in order to get the 6.8 contribution from the city. So they can opt to pretty much just say, my retirement plan will be for the city to just contribute 6.8%.
Of their
Okay,
salary.
so,
Right, themselves. We don't require a match.
And the 457Bs, if they want to be contributing, they would be contributing to the 457B.
right, but we're not matching in the 457B. We're only matching in their general,
The
right?
one-
It's just a savings account, but if they go into the 457B, then we're not matching anything in the 457B, is my understanding according to this document. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
So on one hand, so with OKMRF, we have the 401A, and then with FOIA, it's the 457B. So only the city can contribute to an employee's 401A. If an employee elects to contribute more, then that goes into the 457B.
Right. It's just not matched, it's just additional savings.
Correct.
Okay.
So what I'm hearing is an employee can have two different savings accounts with the city.
Correct.
Okay.
Basically. The city's gonna save them 6.8% every single month after 30 days. And they'll only be vested after a year. So if they save the city for 20 years, they get 6.8% over 20 years, unless that goes up. But if they go into the 457B and they wanna dump $10,000, we don't match that. We don't even contribute to that. That's just an additional savings into their savings account.
Correct. And there are a few exceptions to that, but those are for positions that are contracted positions. So the city manager, the city attorney, and the assistant city manager get an additional benefit by contract.
And this doesn't affect the labor unions either. So the police and fire have a separate retirement system that is a defined benefit. So they have pension plans that the city pays into every year. And do you know what those are, Robert? But none of this is going to be and none of these details are changing with the vendor. We're just changing vendors, but all these details related to the benefits are staying the same.
So what's the difference as far as the city manager, the attorney, and city planner? What's the differentiation between that? I didn't see that. I guess I must have read through that pretty quickly.
So and this is in the 457B, I believe they negotiated in their employment contract, that they would get an additional contribution above and beyond the 6.8%, and that would get put into the 457B. I don't know the specifics right now off the top of my head, but I could get back to you on that after.
Would you please? I'd like to know what that is.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions on this?
No.
All right, any motions?
Motion to approve. Item number 4.
Second.
Thank you, let's vote.
Marie,
Yes.
Isbell,
Yes.
Box,
Yes.
Dyke,
Yes.
Bourget,
Yes.
Lynn,
Yes.
Mary Lee.
Yes. Item 5, request to approve emergency clause for ordinance number 1533, making it effective immediately upon passage.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Thank you, let's vote.
Murray,
Yes.
Isbell,
Yes.
Box,
Yes.
Dyke,
Yes.
OJ,
Yes.
Lynn,
Yes.
Mary Lee.
Yes. Item 6, request to approve resolution number 714, a resolution adopting by reference the trust indenture titled Oklahoma Municipal Retirement Fund, authorizing the mayor and clerk to execute the agreement to pool funds with other Oklahoma cities and towns for the purposes of administration, investment, management, and authorizing the HR director to act as the authorized agent.
Motion to approve item number 6 unless Mr. Sosada cares to comment.
And second.
Thank you, let's vote.
Murray,
Yes.
Isbell,
Yes.
Box,
Yes.
Dyke,
Yes.
OJ,
Yes.
Lynn,
Yes.
Mary Lee.
Yes. Item 7, request to approve resolution number 715, a resolution to restate the governmental employer's 457B deferred compensation plan document.
Move to approve item number 7. Second.
Thank you, let's vote.
Murray,
Yes.
Isbell,
Yes.
Box,
Yes.
Dyke,
Yes.
OJ,
Yes.
Lynn,
Yes.
Mary Lee.
Yes. Item 8, request to approve ROWUEC 2077, a request from Tanner Consulting for a utility easement closure. The general location is 3714 West 113th Street South. Ms. Hilton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, council, and staff. This is a pretty straightforward request. The applicant is the Tenor Consulting, Justin Morgan. He's representing the Shipley family. They are in the process of getting a pool, or at least thinking about it very, very, very seriously in their backyard. And in order to get the pool they desire, they would like to reduce the utility easement from 25 feet to 10 feet. The city staff has reviewed this, city engineer has reviewed it. We're okay with the request. It's gone out to all the utility companies. They've made their requests known and have coordinated any issues they have with the consultant, Tanner Consulting. And at this time, staff would ask that you approve the utility easement closure and ultimate vacation in district court.
All right, thank you. Any questions on item 8?
No, sir. Motion to approve item number 8.
Second.
Thank you, let's vote.
Murray,
Yes.
Isbell,
Yes.
Box,
Yes.
Dyke,
Yes.
OJ,
Yes.
Lynn,
Yes.
Mary Lee.
Yes. Item 9, request to approve ordinance number 1532 related to ROWUEC 2077, proposing part of the utility easement near the general location of 3714 West 113th Street South.
So moved. And seconded.
Thank you, let's vote.
Murray,
Yes.
Isbell,
Yes.
Box,
Yes.
Dyke,
Yes.
OJ,
Yes.
Lynn,
Yes.
Mary Lee.
Yes. Item 10, request to approve emergency clause for ordinance number 1532, making it effective immediately upon passage.
So moved. Second.
Thank you, let's vote.
Murray,
Yes.
Isbell,
Yes.
Box,
Yes.
Dyke,
Yes.
OJ,
Yes.
Lynn,
Yes.
Mary Lee.
Yeah. Item 11, request to approve resolution number 716, approving the terms and conditions of the First Amendment Development Financing Assistance Agreement by and among the City of Jenks, Oklahoma, the Tulsa County Industrial Authority, and Village on Main LLC. Ms. Nally, welcome.
Thank you. Mayor, members of council, this agreement would be one that if it wasn't so complex and confusing, probably could have gotten on the consent agenda because none of the city's responsibilities are changing by the virtue of this agreement, but The Village on Main LLC has constructed several projects and also public improvements in the city's TIF number 1. As a part of those constructions, the Village on Main obtained financing through the Tulsa County Industrial Authority, where the Tulsa County Industrial Authority would advance funds for the Village on Main that were then paid back with the TIF reimbursements the Village on Main is eligible for. Under their original development financing agreement with the Tulsa County Industrial Authority, that expired before they took the full draw they were entitled to. So this amended is basically allowing Village on Main to again draw advance financing to construct additional improvements in the Village on Main. The city's part of this remains the same. What we do is whenever we have TIF funds and it's time to pay them out, we pay it to Tulsa County Industrial Authority instead of the Village on Main. That's really what we're agreeing to. We're basically signing off so that they can amend their agreement to allow Village on Main to get new financing.
Okay, thank you.
No, unless we love people missing deadlines.
So are we extending this from 12 to 25 years? Is that what we're doing?
We aren't changing anything with respect to the TIF.
Okay.
This is just their personal financing through Tulsa County Industrial Authority and the bank.
We're just giving them an extension is what it sounds like, Donna.
Yeah.
I know, but what's the extension? How long is the extension?
Is Chris Capsule or anyone with Village on Main on the line? I mean, and really, we aren't granting them an extension. We will continue to reimburse them for the life of the TIF. They are getting for the bank.
What, Corey?
There's no negative consequence to the city of James, so.
I'm not worried about that. Just wanting to know how long the extension is.
Isn't there a cap?
Which extension? Because we'll be sending that money over to the Tulsa County Industrial Authority for the life of the TIF. And it was estimated that, you know, if whatever they draw down, we continue to send the TIF funds over to the Tulsa County Industrial Authority, we then send it to Equity Bank. And we'd be continuing to do that regardless of whether or not this was approved. So this is kind of us signing off that they can have another drawdown. It's already been approved by Equity Bank and by the Tulsa County Industrial Authority. So it's basically saying, you know, there were hard stops in the original agreement, like, you know, they had to have started construction on so much new office space or mixed use by a certain date, and they missed those dates. And they're coming back and saying, we know we missed those dates, but can we continue to draw down on the 11 million that was previously approved? The Tulsa County Industrial Authority said yes, and Equity Bank said yes. And now the question is before us, will we say that it's okay for them to continue to draw down, but we're going to continue sending the money to the TIF proceeds to the Tulsa County Industrial Authority over the life of the TIF. I don't know if that.
There's no penalties for them going past any dates or anything under the TIF, or that's nothing that we control?
Well, the TIF, so normally how this would work is a developer builds public infrastructure. And let's just, for simplicity's sake, say it costs $1 million. If the TIF is generating $100,000 a year and they've submitted for reimbursement for $1 million, it's going to take 10 years for them to receive that $1 million back. And what happened with this agreement back in 2016 is Village on Main, the development company, said, we've spent $11 million and we would like that money fronted. We don't want to wait to be reimbursed over time as the TIF collects money, and we would be remitting the reimbursements to the developer, they said, we have the reimbursement up front so that we can continue developing Village on Main. And in 2016, the Tulsa County Industrial Authority said that they would do that, and they would work with Equity Bank to ensure that they received the money up front. In the meantime, what the city agreed to was to continue collecting the TIF proceeds, and instead of reimbursing Village on Main gets this money up front from Equity Bank. City of Jenks continues to collect the money as we normally would and send it over to the Tulsa County Industrial Authority, who sends it over to Equity Bank to pay Equity Bank back for loaning the money or fronting the TIF proceeds to Village on Main. And where the city comes in is back in 2016 when this agreement was approved, to try to incentivize Village on Main moving as quickly as possible. I believe there were deadlines for certain, whatever office space must be started or completed by certain dates, and they did not hit those dates. So Village on Main went back to the Tulsa County Industrial Authority, Equity Bank, and now the City Council, and is saying, we've still, the $11 million agreement is still in place. We just didn't hit these milestones. Can we continue to draw down on this? Obviously, they have started I believe it's a 25,000 square foot mixed use building just to the south of Tulsa Teachers Credit Union. So they're continuing to move along. In the meantime, they've incurred these expenses for public infrastructure, and they're just hoping to continue to draw down. But, like I said, regardless of whether or not this is ultimately approved, we will continue sending money over to the Tulsa County, our TIF proceeds that we collect over to the Tulsa County Industrial Authority, who will then send it to Equity Bank.
Okay, so it's, I guess you're just looking at if someone's putting in for a tip and they collect this money, there's guidelines to show that they are doing something to basically earn that money, and they're not, if they're bypassing some of their deadlines, we just want to make sure that something's being done. I guess that's what I'm looking at.
Yeah, and there's, the reimbursement, the TIF reimbursement process, the developer has to show the city, who would be reimbursing them, that they have expended the funds on public infrastructure.
Okay, thank you.
All right, any other questions on that? Any motions?
So moved.
All right, thank you, let's vote.
Murray,
Yes.
Isbell,
Yes.
Box,
Yes.
Dyke,
Yes.
OJ. Counselor OJ.
You might be frozen.
You say your feet were frozen?
Feed.
Sorry, just trying to wake up a little bit.
There she is.
Counselor OJ.
Sorry, I was completely frozen there and it was logging me out and logging me back in, yes.
Mary Lee.
Hello.
Did you get Counselor Lynn?
Oh, I did not. I'm sorry. Lynn.
Oops.
Yes.
All right.
Mary Lee.
Yes. All right, item 12, request to approve Jenks Trojan Athletics lease and management agreement for Park West. Ms. Mel. You're muted, Teresa.
I am buying that t-shirt that says you're muted. You're all my meetings.
My first time, yes, okay. We do have before you the lease management agreement for the football facilities at Park West to lease to the Jenks Trojan Athletics. The JTA is what we call them, are really the successors of what used to be the Jenks Quarterback Club, but the JTA has never had a lease in its name, so this is really its first lease that they have been occupying, managing the facility for some time, I'm not sure how long. It is set up like the other lease agreements out at Park West to be a rent of $0, but JTA is obligated to do all of the maintenance of the football facilities, as well as run a football program for the benefit of the city, and also to manage those facilities. They do sublet it out to other sports teams, and they host tournaments and bring people to town, and they allow other teams and sports to use them for practice and games and tournaments as well. So the justification for doing the $0 lease is that they provide other benefits equivalent to the value of the lease. In looking at the old lease, however, I do think there were a number of improvements that we needed to make for the city's responsibility if we're gonna allow someone $0 lease, more oversight, more reporting, more accountability. And we've added those into this lease. We've added reporting requirements so that we know how many people are using the facility, what kind of income is being generated, how many tournaments are they having, how many people outside of Jenks are coming in, to the best of their ability to be able to provide us some details so we know how it's working. We know that the JTA would like to make some improvements out there, and they are in the process of some improvements, and Chris Robinson can talk more about those if you want to hear about them, but they have, I know at some point some of you have heard that they have some maybe future plans where they'd like to see the football fields get turfed. We've contemplated and put some provisions in place here about how they can make improvements, and if the city were ever to contribute, for instance, to help turf a field, that JTA would then be responsible for saving and fundraising the money for replacement and repair of turf. That's obviously a huge ongoing upkeep. So we've contemplated that the money that they made from subleasing and renting out the fields and things would go towards maintenance and improvements, like potentially turfing the field. And it is a 20-year lease with an optional 10-year renewal. I know that's very long, but that's there to help justify if they're going to put money into improvements and things to make it fair and to know that they have something. But there are actually some outs built into it. We can give 6 months notice and sell off the property if we just decide that's what's best for the city. But partly, and that's unlikely, but at least it does provide us an out if for some reason it's not working out. Also, if there was a default or some problems. So.
All right. I guess with a contract like this, I don't know that the city would ever decide let's sponsor some type of event. Does the city then have first option to the fields or something? Or I don't know.
We did put in here that the city would be permitted to use the field, and that we might want to use it for public events, and that we would be able to do that.
Yeah.
Teresa, is this a lease agreement being brought to our attention now because the existing lease is expiring, or is it simply a question of other timing?
The existing lease has been expired for a while. I think part of the turnover, I think, created some confusion where I can't say that they are technically a successor in interest to that quarterback club lease for sure. So we wanted to have a new lease with this entity. They needed one in place for their protection, for our protection. So
this is the first lease that actually states JTA on the lease as the other party, not the quarterback club.
Right, that's correct.
Okay. You've been working on this for a while?
We have. We started talking to them probably a little over a year ago, and I think we sent them a draft back before all the COVID stuff, and they had it for a while, and a little bit of back and forth. So yeah, we've been talking about it for a while.
JTA has their own lawyer?
Yes, they do.
Okay.
He reviewed it. We have had some back and forth, and I think we're both pretty pleased with how it turned out. So.
Thank you for getting this done.
Gary, you're pretty involved over there, and I know one time you talked about wanting to the city to look at refurbishing the grass and stuff like that. How much activity does that the fields get over there?
Well, Jenks Trojan Athletics, JTA, conducts youth football out there, practices and games. The home games are either here at this park or at the high school stadium. So there's a lot of youth football activity in the fall. In the spring, starting in January through May, they use the fields for lacrosse. Lacrosse practice. My wife and I participated with the youth lacrosse teams out there, and they have games on the same field. The future look and feel of this is to have a turf field. And just one main turf field for year-round use. That would be football in the fall and lacrosse in the spring. It can also be used for soccer, but we have a lot of soccer fields in the area. I don't know of any soccer activity here yet, but that's a possibility. With a turf field, don't quote me on these numbers, but the high school football field is turf, and they have to replace it every 5 or 6 years, something like that. And that is due in part by football and band. So if we turf this field out there at JTA, I have a feeling, depending on the weather conditions, that the turf field might last longer and need less maintenance. So it would be a great addition to the city long term, and a draw to those outside the community. And did that answer your question?
Yeah, is it easily accessible? I mean, is it open that anybody can walk in, or is it actually gates that lock, that vandalism, I guess, I'm looking at, or things of that?
The entire facility, except for the parking lot, is fenced and gated. The practice fields, you have to have a key or a combination to get on the practice fields, of which is supplied to the coaches. And, they're responsible for locking up after the practice or games are completed.
Well, good. Thank you, Gary.
Teresa, how long was the previous contract?
I believe, and most of them, they've been about 20 to 40 years. I think the last one may have been a 30-year contract. It was at least 20.
I would encourage anybody that has questions about the use of this, just take a drive out there on the weekend. And you will not question again whether the need is there or not. It is packed out.
Can I ask, Teresa, it's a little off topic, but still, but who owns the baseball fields and the softball fields across the way?
There is a, oh gosh.
Is there another lease?
Yes, there is
that. Okay.
City property.
Right, okay, all of the same property. They have a similar lease where they maintain it and get to use it for free. And then there's also it's Jenks girls softball. And they also have the same kind of thing. Those two leases, eventually I'd like to, when we get a chance to get a hold of them, I'd like for them to have a little more accountability like this lease now does.
But that makes sense. This sets a good groundwork for it. Thank you.
Yeah, and most of that property is floodway or floodplain, I don't know which, but this is one of the few uses we can have out there, or sport complexes, sporting fields.
Teresa, Don, I'm glad you brought it up, and Teresa, I'm glad you said you might consider reviewing those agreements for the softball fields in the near future. I can tell you just from having sat in this council seat, I've heard at least a dozen complaints from parents of softball players that the football fields are particularly well and paid attention to, but the softball and baseball are particularly neglected, and specifically some of the girls' softball fields, and they're wanting a better attention paid by the city to pay better attention to the quality of the upkeep there. So we might want to, maybe sometime after we get all these roads built, we can consider looking into strengthening these agreements on the softball and baseball side. So I'm glad you brought it up, and I appreciate Councilor Dye for mentioning it, because the softball folks are less than pleased.
Yes, on the staff, like you heard from softball a few times too.
come up with the shuttle, have them park at the mall, and we shuttle them over, so then they have to shop when they're done. So, parking is a bear there.
Now we're thinking.
Put it on the business development committee, please.
All right, thanks for working on that. Any other questions on this agreement?
No, sir.
Motion, I would be happy to approve the motion, make a motion to approve, please.
Second.
All right, thank you. Let's vote.
Murray,
Yes.
Isbell,
Yes.
Box,
Yes.
Dyke,
Yes.
Ogier,
Yes.
Lynn,
Yes.
Mayor Lee.
Yes. Any motions to adjourn?
So moved.
To adjourn.
Second.
Thank you. Let's vote.
Murray,
Yes.
Isbell,
Yes.
Box,
Yes.
Dyke,
Yes.
Ogier,
Yes.
Lynn,
Yes.
Mayor Lee.
Yes. We are adjourned. There's more. Let's call to order the Peaks Public Works Authority, Tuesday, September 1st, 2020, 7:21 p.m. Let's call roll, please.
Murray,
Here?
Isbell,
Here.
Box,
Here.
Dyke,
Here.
Ogier,
Here.
Lynn,
Here.
Chair Lee.
I'm here. Let's start with the report from our general manager.
Chair and all members of the authority, we did have an update. I didn't touch on it in the city manager report, but we do have a contract in place to install the new water meters that runs from August 17th through February 14th. They've started, and as of August 25th, they've installed 623 meters, so they're averaging about 100 meters a day. A postcard was mailed to all the residents that will be receiving a new meter. The contractor assures us that they will be putting a door hanger and knocking on people's doors when they plan to go put in the new meter, and if the meter is spinning at all, they will not, meaning that the meter is spinning because someone's using water in the house, they will not put in a new meter at that time. But if it's clear that no one's home, they will go ahead and install the new meter. It takes about 20 to 30 minutes. I think Katie took some pictures of an installation. I forwarded those to all of you, and I think she posted them on Facebook. We also had a frequently asked questions form that we posted, and so we've been fielding some questions about this. Something that related to development over at 2900 West Main. When the developer when the developer was developing the land at 2900, they had to take down the school's fence at their ag facility, and at the time the developer was going to put it back up when they were complete, when all their earthwork was complete. The developer has since kind of gone pretty quiet on us, and so the school is having to go put in the fence. They can't wait any longer, so they're paying to put the fence back up. And the Public Works Authority told the school that if they would let us know how much the fence costs, we would reimburse the school for the cost of that fence. And then when the developer comes through and is ready to move forward, we would seek the reimbursement from the developer, just because we can't. We don't think it's fair to the school that they allowed the developer to take the fence down to do the earthwork they need to do, and then they have not put it back timely. So that's about all I have. If you have any other questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Who is the developer, Chris?
Well, I know the engineer I think it's Alan Betchen. Is that correct, Chris Robinson?
Yes, that is correct. AAB Engineering.
AAB Engineering has been contracted by the developer. I don't know specifically who the actual owner or developer is, but the engineering firm has been our contact, and I think the engineering firm, they aren't even necessarily even working for the, I don't know if they are or aren't working for the developer right now, but the thing, why the city or the Jenks Public Works Authority has the teeth to request the reimbursement is they're gonna need to move forward, getting their infrastructure accepted, and getting other development. They'll have applications coming before, at least city staff, if not the city council. And so before anything moves forward, we will request that, we be reimbursed for the cost of that fence.
Right, knowing who they are when it comes across Marseille's desk would be pretty helpful, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, anything, and it's gonna be the location, it's gonna be the tip off. Because, so any application for anything on that property, would trigger our request for the reimbursement. And we've communicated that, I believe we've communicated that already to at least the engineer.
Yes, we have.
Is that the same property that we just approved the driveways for last 2 weeks ago?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay, did we forget to ask them for money then?
Well, the school hadn't told us that they
Okay, that makes sense.
So, the school came to us, I think this was last week, and said that they were gonna have to move forward and pay for the fence, and that's when we said, to make it right, we thought Public Works will reimburse them for that fence and then seek, obviously, it would have been, if we had known this, 3 weeks ago.
Right. You're supposed to know everything ahead of time, Christopher. No, I'm teasing. But I mean, that at least shows that they are moving forward and looking at some forward progress, so.
Yes.
Do we have an estimate or ballpark figure on what it would cost for the fence?
Chris, have you received that from the school?
I have not received that yet, but I will call them again tomorrow to see if I can get that.
Just curious.
I was so tempted to be Austin Powers and his $1 million, but I couldn't pull it off.
Hold up your little finger.
All right, any other questions before we move on?
No, sir.
All right, let's move to our first order of business, consideration and appropriate action relating to request for approval of the consent agenda. Any questions?
I'll make a motion to approve item number 1 unless there's any questions.
And I'll second it.
Let's vote.
Murray,
Yes.
Isbell,
Yes.
Box,
Yes.
Dyke,
Yes.
Ogier,
Yes.
Lynn,
Yes.
Shirley.
Yes. We'll pull item number 2 and move on to item 3. Request to approve amendment to the Jenks Commerce Park deed of dedication. Mrs. Hilton.
Thank you. This is my first time to meet with the Jenks Public Works Authority. I'll try not to make it a habit. We have a couple of parcels that have been for sale within the Jenks Commerce Industrial Park. This has been an ongoing project. It was established in 1998. That's when it was platted. They went through some other government things to get it all done. At that time, I believe the vision for the city was to have an area dedicated for primary jobs, and I think TWD Dover, did I say that right? And Continental Wire Cloth are the only two since 1998 that have actually settled in that area. So the city has had their parcel up for sale for some time, and there's another parcel owned by a different entity. So tonight we have a request to remove part of Lot 1. Let me see, make sure I get it correct when I say it. Lot 1, Block 2 of Jenks Commerce Park. And the JPWA has sole authority to do this because that is how it is read or how it is stated in the deed of dedication on the plat. And I'm coming to you to ask you to consider removing this area based on the legal description you've been provided in order for development to take place. And at this time, we do have an interest in it, but I'll tell you in the past, there's been a couple of people interested, and there's two issues that have come up. One, their stormwater detention in that area is significant, and anybody wanting to develop is going to a large portion of their tract is going to be consumed with stormwater and making it very challenging to develop in that area. And two, over the years, we've had a lot of residential that has been built and approved surrounding this industrial park. And I don't know about you, but most people prefer not to be adjacent to an industrial park. And those neighbors have expressed that to the city on multiple occasions. So at this time, we do have a different type of offer on the table, and it would be for a planned unit development project, which you'll hear about in the future. And I believe everyone has received some information regarding that at this time. So on page 40 of your packet, or page 2 of the staff report, it says requested amendments. And it talks about the subject acreage, lot 2, block 2 of Jenks Commerce Park, less than accept. And I have 3 conditions. 1, I'm asking for removal of the subject acreage from the plat for future replatting. And that's the physical page 1. That's usually the drawing where you have the boundaries, the dimensions and everything. The other thing I'm asking is removal of subject acreage from the deed of dedication language as pertains to part 1 through part 12 and any other relevant language not specifically identified. And in that, it specifically says agreements, restrictions, charges, and covenants. So I'm asking that that be removed so that this developer, and if this falls through, then if something else very viable comes in, then these are already removed and we have a tract that's more easily developed. The third thing that I'm asking tonight on behalf of the applicant and on behalf of the city is approve continental wire cloth tract to exist lawfully with less than 5 acres as required in part 9 of re-subdivision. So at this time, one of the conditions of the plat was everybody, I think, had to have a minimum of 5 acre tract. And Continental Wire Cloth is no longer interested in expanding in that area, and they are interested in selling part of that lot to this developer. So the requirements would be a majority vote of the JPWA and replatting of any new development. So staff is asking and recommends consideration of non-industrial uses for development on the subject tract in order for new uses to move forward. So I'm asking that you consider these requested amendments and approve them, approve Continental Wire Cloth to lawfully exist with less than 5 acres and require any new development to replat.
Thank you. Any questions on that, council?
Mrs. Hilton, did all 3 of these recommendations come from you specifically, or were they a culmination of ideas from Planning Commission or other?
This has not gone to Planning Commission because it was a JPWA transaction and it came straight to City Council. It is part of a request on behalf of, it started through the conversation of the consultant that was hired for the developer that's looking to purchase this tract. So they have it under contract, and in looking at the details of the tract, it was observed by staff and by the other parties that we needed to address this. There really wasn't any reason to move forward with a PUD or anything else if the JPWA was not willing to amend the deed of dedication in the plat.
I think I was frozen out there for a
moment. I think you were too.
It disconnected me right after I asked it. Do I need to repeat my question?
No, but I'll be happy to repeat.
The whole thing.
I'll repeat my answer.
I've been to 1,000 Teams meetings and I've never seen that error message pop up until tonight. I just figured my son was blasting all the bandwidth PlayStation, but if you wouldn't mind repeating that, I'd appreciate it.
Okay, this is a collaboration between staff and between the consultant and the potential buyer for the property. We did not see any reason to move forward with an application for a planned unit development and bringing it to Planning Commission if the JPWA was not in favor of amending the deed of dedication.
Okay, so simply because this is an amendment to the DO, okay.
This is just a kind of a housekeeping item that, if this doesn't, if we don't make these amendments, then project isn't really possible.
Correct, but staff is really in favor of it, even if, like I said, I don't know if you heard this, if the, even if this buyer or purchaser were to walk away from the table, it's still a good idea, to allow for smaller lots, et cetera. And, knowing that the stormwater detention is an issue, I think that in general, this is a good idea.
Very well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All right, I think we covered it in there. Thank you.
Murray,
Yes.
Isbell,
Yes.
Box,
Yes.
Dyke,
Yes.
Ogier,
Yes.
Lynn,
Yes.
Chair Lee.
Yes. Item 4, request to approve resolution for 2020-15, a resolution amending the annual appropriations by $3 billion in account number 505315399, JPWA General Fund Water Maintenance, Other Equipment for fiscal year ending June 30th, 2021, to fund the authority's water meter project. Mr. Sauce, welcome back.
Chair, members of the authority. Last week, we finally came to the conclusion of issuing the bonds that were approved back in June. They were issued at a premium with an effective interest rate of 1.7% for a maturity of 10 years. The resolution before you is a supplemental appropriation to actually appropriate the money so we can fund the water meter project.
Okay. Any questions on that?
Sounds like they're making great progress, so that's really nice to hear.
Really? Absolutely.
A motion to approve. No other questions?
You let's vote.
Murray,
Yes.
Isbell,
Yes.
Box,
Yes.
Dyke,
Yes.
Ogier,
Yes.
Lynn,
Yes.
Chair Lee.
Yes. Item 5, potential vote to enter executive session to discuss the purchase of real property located at 411, 417, 419, and 423 West A Street pursuant to 25 OS Section 307B3.
So moved.
Second.
All right, thank you. Let's vote.
Murray,
Yes.
Isbell,
Yes.
Box,
Yes.
Dyke,
Yes.
Ogier,
Yes.
Lynn,
Yes.
Chair Lee.
Yes. All right, so we are going to enter executive session and we'll be back.
So we hang up on this one and we go to our other link, right? Just trying to remember what we did before.
Yes.
Gary will tell us.
Yes, just go to the other meeting and I'll also invite anyone who doesn't make it.
Okay.
So
Thanks, Gary. That'll be again.
I'm trying, Gary.
We do leave, right?
Where are you?
Christopher, Dean is looking, as I've watched you in the meeting today, Dean is looking more and more like you. Every once in a while I go, oh, it's the thing. Oh, no, that's Christopher.
Ouch.
No, he's really getting more expressive and everything, I've noticed.
I don't quite have that red hair though.
No, well, you know, my son was born with fuzzy red hair and then lost it all.
Dean's a good looking baby, for sure. Greg, I see. All right, we are back in our public meeting. It is 7:55 p.m. We were in executive session, no votes were taken. And we are going to move to item 6, request to approve purchase of real property located at 411, 417, 419, and 423 West A Street, and authorize general manager to execute contract of sale. and approve resolution number 2020-16 appropriating $550,000 from Jenks Public Works Authority 1 cent capital fund balance to be budgeted to account number 532525391, JPWA 1 cent capital fund, city facilities, land. Mr. Shroud. Or, perhaps, I don't know if we need to hear anything else.
I move to
Second.
Okay.
Murray?
I don't know if I could vote, I didn't have, because I couldn't get in on that meeting, so I know nothing about what's going on with it. So I'll have to recluse.
Okay. I'm sorry about that.
No, it's not your fault.
Do you want to, should we go back?
We can go back and discuss it.
No, you guys have already been in something, and I had problems with my computer, had to reboot it, and then trying to get logged in and stuff, so I could never get in there.
Do you want Christopher to at least go through what we're doing?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, yeah, if it's not something that comes out of executive session, I don't want to mess up the laws on it or anything.
I think the vote's gonna be successful regardless, right, Craig? I'm sure. Craig, as a courtesy to you, we'll do whatever you think we need to do. If you prefer that we press on, then I think the mayor would do that if that's your request.
Yeah, I don't want to hold you guys up. I'm upset because I couldn't get in, and then the speakers weren't working, and Carrie said I needed to reboot my computer, and then rebooting and I've got an older computer, it took a long time, so I don't want to tie you guys up. So you guys just go ahead and do what you got to do.
Okay, well, if you feel comfortable with it, we'll go ahead, but we don't mind, we don't have a train to catch or anything, so we can.
Chris, why don't you just recap just briefly, and that way we'll just withdraw our voting and move on.
So the purpose of this item is to purchase the 4 pieces of property that are immediately east of the police station on A Street. They total about 31,000 square feet. And the 550,000 is for purchasing the property and then eventually demolishing the existing homes and cleaning up the site. And the purchase price of the property is scheduled to be at $490,000. That's about 490,000. It's for 31,500 square feet of land. That's about $15.56 per square foot. Just for comparison's sake, 424 West A, which is across the street, is a 7,000 square foot lot that sold in June for $147,000, which is $21 a square foot. 407 West A, which is immediately east of these 4 houses, it's formerly Dr. Lou's office. That sold in February for $250,000, and that's a little over 10,000 square feet for about close to $24 a square foot per square foot of land. And so, as the city hall expands and we need more parking and we're building more facilities, we have existing contracts for a new fire station. We have a contract to design the Jenks Adult Activity Center. We're still exploring options on locating both of those, but we know that we need more land to locate both of them. And so we think that this just offers the city a lot more, the city and the Public Works Authority a lot more flexibility and where we can locate future buildings. And we have 2 right now that we're hoping will be designed within the next year or 2. And beyond that, the police station is, long term. I don't think that current location is going to be big enough for all the officers, and I don't think there's enough office space there. City Hall is currently just about at capacity in terms of office space, and so the more land that we can have, that we can add to the City Hall campus, I think is a benefit to the city, and cleaning up that property, I think will be a benefit to the city as a whole as well.
Okay, so with these homes, These are on the north side of, I guess, A Street?
Correct.
Okay, then, so there are still homes that are on B Street, so we're not really getting the whole city block, I guess, right?
No.
I mean, is that the intent eventually?
Well, it's, the unique situation here is that there's one owner of these four houses. And so the other houses, on say B Street, I mean, those have different owners. And I think, you know, even if strategically the goal was to acquire those over time, it would take, a significant amount of time because there's different owners for each house.
Will this does this get all the homes on the north side of A Street?
No, this gets 4 of the 5. The 5th is that former Dr. Lou's office, which I don't think at this point doesn't make economic sense to, if it was just sold and purchased for $247,000, I don't think that makes sense to purchase that. And it's not for sale right at the moment either.
Okay.
We've got a good opportunity on these.
Okay, well, I'm sorry, guys, I didn't know what we had going on, so thank you.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, and I'm sorry again, Counselor, trustee, I thought I saw you there when the meeting, when we started.
I tried, yeah, but I had no speakers or anything, so I had to reboot according to Carrie, so.
I had to do that earlier, Craig, so don't worry about it.
All right, thank you.
All right, so are we, so we still have a motion and a second on the table, or do we need to have a new one?
Here, Brandon, do you have that motion and second?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Okay, if we're ready, let's vote.
Murray,
Yes.
Isbell,
Yes.
Box,
Yes.
Dyke,
Yes.
Ogier,
Yes.
Lynn,
Yes.
Chairley.
Yes. All right, I guess that's it. Are there any motions to adjourn?
So moved.
So moved. Second.
All right, let's vote.
Murray,
Yes.
Isbell,
Yes.
Box,
Yes.
Dyke,
Yes.
Ogier,
Yes.
Lynn,
Yes. Yes.
Chairley.
Yes, we're adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Good night, everybody.